G'day folks. Well, in this video I'm going to take you through how I solve the Dayan Gem 10. Now this is a relatively straightforward puzzle apart from one issue that occurs at the end. Well, it can occur, I'll talk about that more later. But on this puzzle, so this is one of the Gem series, there are 9 of them now. That's right, 9, not 10. I don't know why they haven't released version 9, but they haven't. So this turns on its edges like that, and it also turns on the square faces like that. It looks identical to the Dayan Gem 1, but on the Dayan Gem 1, the edges cannot move. So here, these are the edges, that green-white piece there, that on this puzzle can move place. On the Dayan Gem 1, because these squares can't turn, the only thing that it can do is rotate in place like that. So as I said, there are edges. The other piece type, there's 2 visible piece types. The other piece type is the kite. And for example, that green-orange piece there is a kite. And that's it. So we've really just got to solve the edges. We've got to solve the kites. Now, of course, being based on an edge turner, it does jumble as well. So when we jumble things, there's actually no need to use jumbling at all in this scramble or solve, apart from if you want to shapeshift with jumbling. So if you want to end up with bits sticking out all over the place, that's when you would do that sort of jumbling, and I will do that in this solve because why not? So on the Dayan Gem 1, if we think about the kites and the orbits they can go in, well, for example, that white-orange kite there, on the Gem 1, what I could do would be to move it to say there. I could keep moving it around like this, and if I just follow that orbit, it goes to here, to here, and to here, and that is exactly where it started from. So there are 4 separate orbits, and to change the orbit of a kite on a Gem 1, I would have to do something like a jumbling move. So I'll never remember which way they go here. Let's see if I can get something happening. Something like this might be working. Here we go, because I want to turn that edge. So just, where is it? That's good. This one, there we go. So you can see the yellow-white and the white-orange kite have now changed their orbits. Now, in order to do that on this puzzle, in order to change the orbit, and I'm just going to put these back for now, if I can. There we go. All I need to do is turn a square face. If I turn that square face, that kite, which used to be in that orbit there, has now moved to this orbit. And that's why you don't need jumbling at all when you're solving it. So as I said, the solve is fairly straightforward, and you can get a swap of kites at the end. And there is exactly a 50% chance of that happening. Unfortunately, there's no way to know, and there's no way to check at the start of the solve. So it's just luck. So I'm hoping in this solve that I do get it, obviously, because I want to show what to do. I will show what to do even if I don't. I'll set up for it. Firstly, in terms of scrambling this thing, obviously you just want to start turning square faces and edges at the same time, and no need to sort of do any shape shifting yet. And once you've got it scrambled to your satisfaction, then you can start, if you wish to, doing some jumbling with shape shifting. So for that, we kind of want to do something like putting a kite onto another edge, and I can turn that off, bring that one, and I've got 2 separated kites there. And what I would do, it is quite difficult to, for me at least, to get this really blocked, because you cannot, there's no jumbling with the square faces, and once you have a kite sort of around a square face, I mean, that'll turn like that, but then it's blocked. So you can't turn that one. This one's completely blocked. That one, same thing. So you're really trying to get as many of these on their own first, and then see if you can make them interact a little bit more. It is getting to the point where there's not a whole lot more I can do. So what I would probably do now is start trying to turn edges so they are not correctly aligned. Okay, so that's as best that I can get this one for, a shape-shifted form. And I guess if I wanted to do some tensioning, I could. In terms of bringing it back to cube shape, what I want to do is just focus on the edges, and I can almost always find a correct set of edges based on one square face, because as I said, I couldn't really turn that one. So if you look here at that yellow pink, that's an edge. That is correctly oriented, the green white, the blue orange, and the orange pink. Now there's 4 edges here. There's going to be 4 up the top, and in the middle there's also 4, and they need to be between these 2 edges pointing like that. So I would kind of move around here and say, well, there's one that is not correct. So I would see if I could turn it. I probably can't. So I've got to now figure out how I turn other things that will allow me to potentially turn this one. That one is now correct. I still can't turn this because I think this bit is blocking it. So I'm going to leave that for now, move on. This one looks to be correct. So it actually is only this one that's the problem, and I think it's related to something up here. So let's try turning that one and putting that. Where is my original square? That's good. That's good. That one needs to be turned. Can I turn it? Yes, I can. And this one here needs to be turned. That might be all of them. It should just be this one now. There we go. And you can see that having done that wasn't a huge deal. Everything looks much better. Now what I want to do now is obviously to flatten all these pieces. So the sort of thing that we're looking for is 2 of these. Let me bring them closer to, well, let me see if I can get any that are in the sort of the orientation that I want. I might just use this one and move it over towards here. That looks pretty perfect. These 2 are exactly what I'm looking for. So the idea here is that one of them is sort of pointing across and the other's pointing downwards. And if we think, what could we do? Well, if I turn this one down like that, it doesn't really sit properly anywhere on this edge. But if I turn this one up onto the edge, it sits perfectly. And then I can turn that around, undo, and those 2 have been put into place. And before you know it, you're down to a couple. Now here, these are not oriented the way that I need them to be. And you could get a number of scenarios like where they're like this, or they're kind of perhaps opposite each other, or one's pointing up, one's pointing down. What I would generally do is just deal with one of these and move it onto a different edge. So for example, move it onto here. Let me see if this is actually going to do anything. Yes, it has. It's put it onto a different edge. And you can see how, well, it's a different configuration, but it's still not what I want. So I'm going to continue doing that. And a simple turn like that has now put it where I want it to be. So again, I look at the one that's going to turn up onto that central edge. That positions really nicely. I can turn it around and put it down, and the whole thing is returned to shape. There is one little scenario I want to go through because it's a little bit tricky. Let's have a look. Okay, and this is the scenario that I was talking about. I've got 2 of these kites pointing in opposite directions, and they're sitting on the same edge. So what I want to look at is one of them will be pointing downwards. If my edge is horizontal like this one here happens to be pointing downwards. So whichever one is pointing downwards, this is what I want to do. Turn the central edge so that it moves up until it sits snugly onto another edge, and then turn it off like so. Then I just undo those moves. So undo, undo. Now that hasn't done much except put them into the exact configuration that we need to get the last 2. Now which one was it? This one here, the last 2 solved. Or at least unshapeshifted. So that is returning this thing to shape. Now of course if you don't jumble, if you don't shapeshift, you won't have to do that. But a lot of the kites will now be out of their orbit. So the first thing that I want to do is solve the edges. I said earlier there are 12 edges, so what we're going to do is just consider one face. Doesn't matter which face, a square face here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these edges. Now I'm just going to pick any random edge. So I'll pick this grey blue edge here, and I'm then going to work out what could be the other edge that goes next to it. So on this face, if you like, calling that a face, there's 1, 2, 3 possible blue edges. So what options have I got? Blue-yellow is one of them, and the other one is blue-orange. And just a word on this, you might look at that and say, well, isn't that an edge? No, so that's a kite because one of the sides of the piece is considerably larger than the other one. So the edges are symmetrical. Okay, so I've got blue-grey here. I want to know, should it be blue-yellow or blue-orange? Let's imagine that it's blue-yellow. And to put the blue-yellow there, I just want to turn that square face. I'm going to assume that it's blue-yellow, and I'm going to move along and say, okay, what might the next one be? Yellow something. Well, what choices do I have? Yellow-pink. I've also got a yellow-red. Now, if I was to place the yellow-pink, and this initially is kind of sometimes tricky to get lost. There's my face. So let's say I'm going to put the yellow-pink there because it's the closest one that I've got. So I want to move that up to this position just using square face turns. I'll rotate that around. And now I want to see, is there a pink-grey piece? If there is, I'm all good here. I've got a pink-green edge. I've obviously got the pink-yellow. And what's the other pink? Pink-orange. There is not a pink-grey piece. Now that tells me that what I just put there is wrong. So step one, find the face again. And this was the piece I put there, the yellow-pink. So I'm now going to grab the other yellow or another yellow. And let's now try, just hold my finger there, yellow-red. Okay, so I'll move that around. And that's oriented correctly as well. So I've got grey-blue, blue-yellow, yellow-red. Is there a red-grey? Go searching. There's a red-green, there's a red-yellow, and there's a red-grey. So we are on a winner. So I've got to move that red-grey up towards this position. Was that the position that my finger was on? Yes, it was. And you can see if you look at it, those 4 edges, they're kind of like the white cross. Now, a little word about the colour scheme. This is the Dayan Gem 1. As you can see, those square faces are not budging. So on this, and the Gem 10 came with exactly the same colour scheme as this. If I was to look at this and say, well, I've got white, grey, white, orange, these square faces are fixed. On the Gem 10, if I started by putting the white, grey here and the white, orange there, I would be able to successfully solve the puzzle. So there is no one particular correct colour scheme. As long as you make everything match up in the end, it's fine. So there's no need for us to worry about that sort of thing. So we're sitting here and we've got these 4 edges done. We know that's going to be fine in the end. And this colour scheme has nothing to do with the swap of kites. So what I'd do now is say, well, that's my first 4 edges done. I'd pretend that's the bottom of the puzzle, and I've now got the 4 middle layer edges. And so this is where this is nice. I've got the 2 grey ones here. Well, this must be the other grey edge, whatever it is, and it's this grey white here. So I can just move that into position, but I don't want to knock that out, so I'll move it in just with a normal 3 cycle. That's in, moving along. This is the red one. And so the red edge is here. It's the red-green. So again, I can just put that down with any old 3 cycle that I want. That's in. This is the yellow, obviously the pink, and it just needs to be rotated. And this last one is the blue edge, which is this blue-orange. So let's move that into position. So those middle layer edges are now done. Now at this point, the last 4 edges will be on the top, and they'll either be in a 3 cycle or they'll be in some sort of swap or 4 cycle. So let's have a look. This is white, and I know that this is orange, so the white-orange belongs here. So I'll turn that around. I can rotate it if it makes me feel better, so that that is correctly in position. Now, therefore, this must be orange-pink, so that is correct. This must be pink-green. So I've got a pink green here and the green white has to go there. So I've got a swap now like that. So what that tells me is that I just need to turn this upper face one turn and then 3 cycle the remaining edges home. If I turn it one turn like that, for example, then that green white is correctly positioned. So now I've got to 3 cycle the pink orange to here, the orange white to here, and the pink green back to there. So I can just move this third piece off like so and just cycle them home. And I had one set up, which was this one. So checking that everything is correctly oriented now. And we are all good. So if you look at a hexagonal face, so to speak, you'll find that they now have, every face has 3 edges of the same color on it. So that has completed, except for this one. What is going on there? That needs to be twisted. No, it doesn't. Oh no, that was fine. I was looking at the blues. It's actually the grays. Confused myself there, but that has completed the edges. So pretty quick. Now we want to do the kites. So again, I'm just going to choose one face. I don't even know if this was the face I started with. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to place the 4 kites that belong on this face. Now here's where I've got to start thinking, well, what is the color of that square face? So let's have a think about this. I've got a green. I've got 3 possible green kites that could go there. So my options are green, orange. And I should point out, by the way, when I talk about the color scheme of the kites, I always say the large sticker first. So green, orange would be different to, I don't even know if I have it, an orange, green, where the orange is the large sticker. I don't have it, but hopefully that makes sense. So what are my options? And again, I've just lost the face. I think it was that one. Green, orange, green, white, and green, blue. So orange, white, and blue. Now straight away I can discount that this is going to be a white face because we don't have any white stickers. So it's either green, orange, or green, blue. This is either an orange face or a blue face. So let's hold that thought. I'm moving along. Let's see, can I find a white, orange, or a white, blue piece? There's a white, blue, so it certainly could be white, blue. Can I find a white, orange anywhere? There's white, yellow, and there is white, orange. So far it could be either of them. So this one, I need to check the third one. This is grey. I need to be finding either a grey, orange, or a grey, blue. And I'm pretty sure that this one will not have both of those colours. So let's have a look. Grey, orange, or grey, blue. There's a grey, green. There's a grey, orange. That's looking good. Is there a grey, blue? No, there's not. So that's the grey, yellow. So this must be orange. And to confirm it, I can now say that there should be a red, orange piece as well somewhere. There it is. So this top face here is going to be orange. So now I know the colour. Going to see how can I place this green orange up to here. Now you'll notice that this orbit of the green orange is going to land at here. And on a Dayan Gem 1, this would require some jumbling and some annoying stuff. On this one, it does not at all. All I need to do is move the position by turning the square face, and that position is now exactly in the orbit that I want. So because I'm working my way sort of down the cube, it's going to be up the cube in a minute, I haven't done anything else. I've done no other kites. So all I need to worry about is placing the piece of interest, the green-orange piece, in that position. And I can therefore use any other piece in these orbits to do it. So I'll just 3 cycle that piece home and then return the square face. And you can see that is now in its correct orbit. So if I move around, that's white-orange. I need to locate the white-orange piece. It's over here. And I then sort of follow the orbit and it goes up to here. Now, that is in fact the exact orbit of where that piece is supposed to be. So I can just, it's already in its orbit, so I can just 3 cycle that home. That's done. This one is a grey orange. There it is. It's got to go to there. Let's follow the orbit of this edge, goes to here. Okay, so it's on the same square face, but it needs to be there. So I just turn that square face around. and then bring it home. Now, it wasn't that square face that I had to turn, it was this other one here, and that should be yellow, so there we go. Good. Last one here is going to be red-orange, not to be confused with orange-red. There's the red-orange, and I want to put it there, following to there, and to there. Well, that's a bit annoying, or I could go to there and to here. Well, they're both equally annoying. So in this case, what I would do would be to set up this red-orange to be over here by turning it 2 turns on the square face and then 1 turn to put it into its orbit. Okay, so that's now correctly positioned. I want to undo those turns to ensure that my edges remain where they should be. So that's as though I've done the 4 corners on the white cube, I guess. You could think of it like that. It's not exactly analogous because there's more pieces here than on a cube. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is turn it upside down, and I'm going to work my way, calling this the top face, this is the bottom face. I'm just going to start placing kites all around here. And I do, for the first time here, just need to get the color scheme correct. And then after that, everything else will just flow really nicely. So let's have a look here. I've got a couple of options for red. So I've got red-green and red-white. And I need to know, should this piece be red-green or red-white? Well, to determine that, I'll hold it like that because that's the bottom face. So this is the one, red-green or red-white. I want to look at this piece. This will have to be grey, green, or grey-white. And there'll only be one of them. Grey-green. So it must be green. Red-green. So is there a grey-white? Just to confirm that there is not a grey-white. There's a grey-yellow and a, where's the other one? Grey-orange. Okay. So I've now determined that it was going to be, can't even remember what it was now, I think it was green. So red-green here, and that's what I'm going to place first. So there is my red-green. In order to get it to where I need it, it's on that orbit there. So the easiest thing to me seems to be just to turn that square face so I can easily place it. And all these bits up here I haven't done yet, so I can use any of them as I like. And then turn that red-green is in. The next one is the grey-green, which is here. Looking at the orbit, that goes to there. So once again, I would just turn that square face around and just go, well, that can go to there. That's already done, but I can happily involve this piece. So that, to that, back to here. I think I did a setup of some kind. I did, okay. And now that I've got that first piece, I just keep moving around here because there is only one grey piece left. So that's the piece that goes there. Grey, yellow. And let's try and follow this. That grey yellow is going to go to there, which is going to go to here. So that's not a hugely good option. What about, let's see. That is actually, if I do this, you can see that this piece is what I want to fill. This grey piece here. And if I was to just turn its position around to that, I've now got that in exactly the orbit that I need. So I can now go and place that grey-yellow. And I'll just undo that setup. So we started here, moving around. This one, well, I now know that this is yellow, so this has to be white-yellow. Not yellow-white, by the way. There's the white-yellow. It looks like it might come from this direction. Let's have a think. I can always turn square faces if I need to, so I can put that there if it helps. I don't know that it is going to help. That one. This is a bit of an annoying one. So what I'll do is just bring it closer initially. So I'm going to move it over to where that yellow white piece is. Okay, so it's much closer to where I need it to be now, which is this position. And I can see that that piece is now in this orbit. So as long as I turn that square face, the position is now in the same orbit, and I can just use this other piece to place it, to help place it. That's done, and I can then turn back the square face. So just to keep track, this was my bottom face. I started here. I'm working my way around. This must be the last white piece, which has to be white blue. Now this is a really good example for a technique that I like, and it's where the piece that you want to fill is right next to where it needs to go. What we can do is move this piece, just keep it in the same orbit, and just cycle it off somewhere else. So if I 3-cycle the white blue to here, now that is the position. So if I turn that square face to put its position there, I can now 3-cycle it back. And then I return the face and we're good. This one has to be blue, so this is green blue. Right here. And that's pretty close to where it belongs. You can see it's opposite the orbit, so I will just turn that square face to put it in the orbit. And then check what else I can use. That one there, I haven't used that yet. Okay, and then undo the setups. That's done. This is the last green one, which is the green whatever, green white there. Now, that goes, at the moment, goes to there, which goes to there. And you can see that that is actually the same orbit as the position where it belongs. So if I just do a setup of that edge being turned, now I can cycle it home. Alrighty. We're down to the last one here on this layer, which is red something, red white. Again, let's follow the orbit through. It goes to there. And once again, I can just do one setup of that to put the position into place. Okay, so there's my bottom face. Looking around, I've now done the entire bottom half of this thing, and I'm just going to keep working my way along. You can see that the top face, those two happen to be done. That's fine. There's no real rhyme or reason, although nearer to the end, I will try and just keep free one particular orbit. So I'll solve the other pieces around that orbit. And hopefully that will make sense as to why I might want to do that. But for now, let's see if we can just put anything somewhere. So for example, that's the blue, that's the pink blue, which must go here. Now that pink blue is in that orbit. So this is a nice example of where I can turn the position on the square face to place the pink blue over to here. And then my other piece is that, which might look like it's correctly in, but it's not, because this needs to be the yellow face. So that cannot be the correct piece. So I've done that. I'll turn the square face back so that pink blue is now in. Let's look for another one. That's the orange, yellow, which goes to there. I mean, it's not too tricky to do that. I'll just see if there's anything that's more obvious. This will be the blue-green, which is sitting... Well, this is really going to be the same. Yep, I might do this one. Okay, that's my bottom face. So let's place the blue-green. So what I can do here is that blue-green is coming to that orbit. So if I was to turn this edge and then rotate that square face, it's now in the correct orbit. Now you might say, what's this piece? Is that one, do I want to break that piece? So let's have a look what it was. It was this pink red, which is clearly not a correctly placed piece. So that's fine. I can do that. So I've now got the three pieces that I need, and I'll place that green blue. Let's undo setups. That was one of them. That was another. All right. I've got a couple over here and I've got a couple sort of on the other side. So I might do is perhaps just try and get maybe these two done. And that is blue, yellow, and this is orange, yellow. So the blue, yellow, I could certainly, if I could turn that around, that's in position. Now I need something to go here or here. That's no good. What can I put here that's simple? I think I can't actually use that one. So that's a little bit trickier and annoying. So I'm going to ignore that blue yellow for now and try the orange yellow instead, which is sitting over here. Let's follow that through, goes to there. Then it's going to land over here. So what I could do initially is that position goes to there. What I'm thinking about is what are the other pieces that are available to me. Again, nothing obvious there, so I would turn around. This is exactly how I do it if I was solving it on my own. I would just have a look and see what's easy. If nothing's easy, then we start doing a little bit more thinking. This must be pink, white. Now that pink, white is sitting there, so I can happily use a square face turn to get it to there. Question is what's over here? Nothing at the moment. However, you'll notice that if I turn this blue-yellow piece first, if I rotate that, that will now be in the same orbit as the pink-white, which needs to go here. So I can now happily use that piece to place the pink-white. Okay, that is done. Let us undo setups. That's good. Let's try get the yellow-white into position. That's over here. That is going to, okay, this is not a bad one to look at. So this yellow-white, I'd like it to be there because I already have a piece here and I have a piece here, which is its position. So I think I'd like the yellow-white to be there. Well, that's pretty straightforward. I can turn that edge and then just turn the square face. And the yellow-white is now in that correct orbit to where it belongs. And by the way, it's that piece, yellow-white, not the white-yellow. So we're now going to cycle it home. Alrighty, undoing setups. Which one was it? Looks like that, and then that. Good. Okay, so not many to go now. Let's have a look. I've got orange, yellow to blue, yellow to yellow, red. Okay, so at this point you can see clearly that there is a 3 cycle. And to finish this cube off, or this puzzle off, in this scenario, I would probably do something like, because they're not all in the same orbit, so I would just consider first, how could I get them into the same orbit? So I would initially turn that face like so, and I'll just keep in mind what's got to go where. The yellow-red has got to go to the orange-yellow. So yellow-red to orange-yellow. Now that is the correct orbit. So I can easily remember that setup move. If I now do a square face turn and put the yellow-red into this position, I just want to make sure that that is down here before I start. That is my 3rd piece. Alrighty, so they are my setups, and the yellow or the blue yellow has got to go to the yellow red, it's got to go to the orange yellow. So I'd then carry out the final 3 cycle and then hope that I could remember the setup. So I think it was that and that one there, and then finally that one. And you can see if you don't get the swap of kites, it's a pretty straightforward solve. Of course, that's not where the fun is. The fun is definitely with the kite swap. So I'm going to set up for that now because I didn't get it in this solve. There's a 50% chance. I'll set up for it and we'll be back soon. And here we are with the dreaded swap of 2 corners. So I want to explain what is actually going on here. So if you're not interested in that and you just want to know how to fix it, please feel free to skip ahead to that point in the video. But for the rest of us, this is how I came to think this through and understand what was happening. The first time I got this, and I didn't get this on my first solve, it just solved straight away, but it wasn't maybe the second or the third solve I did get this. I think it was a swap here and here. So it doesn't matter where the two swapped kites are, but I tried what pretty much anyone would try. Let's turn a square face one turn and resolve things. Well, I tried that and I moved the edges back and I moved the kites back and, well, nothing really changed. But the interesting thing was that when I tried turning a square face and then said, well, instead of doing what I just did, I'm actually going to now say that that is the new position of that edge. So instead of that edge being there, it's now going to be here. I kept going, and what I noticed is that at the end, I'd always have to turn that face to match it. I didn't think too much of it. I just sort of noted it, but I didn't really understand why that would happen. And I also noticed that if I did this, if I turned an edge in place and then said, right, that edge is the new correct first edge, and I'm going to build everything up based on that, it would also solve properly. It wasn't until I started thinking about swaps of things that I understood what was going on, and I want to take you through that. So you might remember recently I put out a video understanding the 𝙑𝙃𝙈 parity, and the reason for that, as I said in that video, was for an upcoming video, which is this one here, and it's very similar what's going on. So I want to talk about the swaps of things. I mentioned at the start that there were two visible piece types, the edges and the kites. Well, that's because there's technically a third piece type, which is a hidden center, and it's a center hidden under this square face. And what I want us to think about is if this is the top face, then it's possible to view this, that the middle layer is a slice, and we can view that as a slice. Well, you remember on the 𝙑𝙃𝙈, what we had to do was turn the slice one turn, and that would deal with the color scheme and I guess the inner workings and the core of the puzzle, and things would go well. So I want to consider what's going on with the swaps of pieces, the number of swaps of pieces. First thing I want to look at is on a solved puzzle. I'll hold it this way so we can think about it more easily. How many swaps of edges and kites are there on a solved puzzle? Well, clearly if it's solved, there are 0 swaps. They're all in place. There are no swaps required to get it to a solved position. Okay, so no swaps of edges, no swaps of kites. There must be no swaps of centers. And overall, 0 swaps. That's an even number. That's good. We want an even number of swaps all the time for this puzzle. What about if we have the kite swap? Well, let's consider firstly the edges. How many swaps of edges are required to have them solved? Well, 0, because they are all in position. What about kites? Well, very clearly, 1. 1 swap of kites. Now, if we just count the edges and the kites, that is a total of 1 swap. But that can't be. There must be another swap somewhere, because there has to be overall an even number of swaps. And that other swap is to do with the centers. And this is where, if we look at this sort of thing, if we were to swap some centers or move some centers around, some hidden centers, it would fix the problem. That's what we're going to do. So we can say that there is the equivalent of 1 swap of centers. Now, I know that it could be that there are 3 swaps. In other words, I could have to do center here, then this one to here, this one to here. That would be 3 swaps. But essentially, it's an odd number of swaps. And overall, that means we're talking about a swap of kites, a swap of centers, 2 swaps overall, an even number of swaps. Okay, now what happens if we did what I thought to do first? Turn this square face 1 turn and then resolve by moving the edges back into the position they were. How many swaps would I need? Well, I could swap the yellow-blue and the orange-blue, which would solve the yellow-blue, and move the orange-blue here. That's 1 swap. I could swap the orange-blue and the pink-yellow. That'd solve that one. That's 2 swaps. And then the last set would swap and solve. That's 3 swaps. So edges, 3 swaps of edges. What about kites? Well, now that I've turned it one face, you can see that kite is actually in position and solved. So I have this, this, and this, which need to move around. Well, you can see that I could swap orange, red, and pink, red. There's 1 swap. And then I could swap the pink, red, which would be sitting here, with the blue, red. That's 2 swaps. So 2 swaps of kites. I still would have the 1 swap of centers because I haven't changed that by doing this turn. All I've done is rotate a hidden center there. And so 3 edges, 2 for the kites, 1 for the centers. That's 6 swaps overall. Must be an even number. Okay, that's still why nothing's been fixed, because we haven't dealt with that center swap. Now the other thing I tried, and I kind of mentioned this at the start, is that I found that when I did this and started resolving, I always had to do that. So what would happen if I did both the top and the bottom faces and tried that? Well, in terms of the edges, there were 3 edges on the top face, there'll be 3 on the bottom. So there'd be 6 swaps of edges. There were 2 swaps of kites on the top face, and there will be 3 swaps of kites on the bottom. So that's 5 swaps of kites, still the 1 swap of centers, 6 plus 5 plus 1. I know it's mind-blowing, but it equals 12. I still have an even number, but I haven't fixed the problem. All right, and just to be very clear, what that was with the bottom and the top was turning both those faces and moving those edges back to where they belong based on this middle layer color scheme. Now, clearly, the thing that is not changing when I try all this stuff, as I try and get this back, is that the centers are not swapping. I'm not dealing with this issue of the underlying centers. So since the centers require an odd number of swaps to return them to being solved, as in a single swap, so I could have this center and this center needing to swap, or perhaps this one and this one, or I could have a 4 cycle. I could have all of them going around like that. That would be 3 swaps, or this to here, this to here, this to here, this to here. That would also be 3 swaps. Doesn't matter how, there's an odd number of swaps. The only way I can get out of this is to do essentially a slice move. Like that. And notice that the difference in thinking here is, yes, I've turned the top and the bottom faces, but before I was resolving the top and the bottom faces to this color scheme. Now I need to resolve the middle layer to the color scheme of the top and bottom. In other words, this blue-grey is not the fixed edge. This has to come back to here. I have to now move everything in the middle layer back to where it belongs. I've dealt with the centers because now they essentially have 0 swaps. So the centers are fine. And I want to think now, can we confirm that this is going to fix the problem by looking at the number of swaps, having done this? We sure can. Let's have a look at edges. How many swaps are there to get the edges back to where they belong? Well, the only edges that have moved are in the middle layer. So this blue-grey needs to go back to here. It needs to solve according to the top and bottom color scheme. So 1 swap to get the blue-grey. Then the white-orange is here. The yellow-red will go to here. That'll be solved, and that'll be 2 swaps. Don't be put off by that, because remember, that's really belongs there. So 2 swaps, and then the last 2 are here, and they will swap to solve. That will be 3 swaps. So 3 swaps of edges. What about kites? Well, if you think about this orange-yellow, it actually came from that position, and this pink-blue came from that position, and on and on. So in fact, if I look at the kites on the upper of the middle layer, there's an upper and a lower layer, that pink-blue is pointing that way, diagonally upwards to the right. That one, that one, that one, and that one. I basically have a 4 cycle there. Well, that is going to take 3 swaps to do. Then I'll look at these ones. That one, that one. I've got another 4. So there's another 3 swaps. So that's 6 swaps just on the upper layer. Well, similarly, on the lower layer, there must also be 6 swaps. So that is 12 swaps. But remember, there's another swap up here. That's the thing that started it all. So that gives us a grand total of 13 swaps. Now we fixed the centers, so there's 0 swaps of centers. So 3 edge swaps, 13 kite swaps, that's 16 overall. It's an even number. The fabric of the universe is tightly knit, and we can move on with our lives. So that is what will fix the problem. And I want to be super clear. It is not turning the upper face and the down face one turn and then resolving according to the middle layer color scheme. It is essentially turning the slice one turn and resolving the middle layer according to the up and down color scheme. So this has fixed the problem. Now, what do we do? Having fixed that problem by turning that slice one turn, we now need to put the edges of the middle layer back into position, and we need to put the kites back into position. And unfortunately, even if you say, well, you know, there's a non-destructive way of doing this and you can just sort of cycle them home, you still have to cycle them all home. So for me, the simplest way to think about it is just to do the edges first and then do all the kites again. Yes, it's annoying. No, you can't look for it at the beginning of the solve. It is what it is. There are worse things in life, I suppose. Yellow-red's got to go here. The blue-grey has got to go here. Let's do a 3 cycle of these pieces, first of all, by turning these square faces. Okay, the blue-grey is in position. We'll just twist that to rotate. Same with the yellow-red. Good, those two are done. Now I've got the pink-green that needs to go here. The orange-white needs to go here. And you'll probably be thinking, hang on a minute, isn't that a swap of edges? Yes, it is. It's a swap of edges to go with the swap of kites. So all is well. We have a swap of edges on this one face. So if I was to turn the face one turn, what it would mean is that I will now create 2 swaps of edges. So the white-orange needs to go here. The white-green needs to go here. There's one swap. And in the same way, these two would need to swap as well. So turning this face one turn will enable me to now 3 cycle these things home. So the first one to get home, let's say this white-green's got to go back there. Well, I can just use this edge. I'll set it up by turning it over here and then 3 cycle those 3 edges. Undo that setup. All right, so that one's back where it should be. Now, what's got to go where? The pink-green has to go over here. The pink-orange has to go here. The orange-white has to go here. So it's going to be this up to here. And then this is my third one, which I'll set up by moving it up to that position. All done. Undo the setup. And now just twist any of these middle layer edges into place. If we look around, you can see that the top layer still just has those 2 swapped kites. The middle layer, all of the edges are now back where they should be according to the new color scheme. And the only task now is to continue resolving the rest of the kites. And to do that, I'm going to do the same as I did before. I'll go a little bit quicker, hopefully, but it's exactly the same thing, which is why this is kind of a little bit annoying that we have to do it pretty much all over again for this middle layer. I will try and keep these two, or I should say keep these two solved, so we just have to do as little as possible. So again, we would look here and say, well, this is a white, this is a green. What's that face? What's the common color? So let's check the white kites first. We've got a white blue and a white yellow. We got another white. Probably it's here. So white, blue, white, yellow. What about green? Green, blue. All right. So that tells us that this is going to be, this face here is going to be a blue face. And I've got to put the white, blue in that position. So the white, blue is currently over here and I need to get it over to here. So let's see where it's going to land. That's not the worst thing to do. So we'll just turn that around and rotate that square face and now bring it into position. And just remember to put the square, or put all the setups back. Okay, so that white blue is in there. The green blue belongs here, and that's sort of opposite. So again, what we want to try and do is just move it around the place. So move it over to here. And where can we go from there? We can potentially, we can just involve this piece as well. This piece we just don't want to put over here, so let's move them that way, which will get the green blue out of that position. Okay, now the green blue is over here, and we want the orange grey to come back here. So I'm going to turn the position of the green blue around and now cycle those pieces back to where I want them. I'll undo that turn. Okay, so the green blue is in and that orange grey is still there as well on that bottom face. So we're just building this up. This last one must be the green whatever. What is it? The green white. Okay, so this one goes here. The easiest way by the looks of this, I'd say probably turn that to there. Now this one, well, that's an edge. Where's the... I do turn that to there. Where's the next piece? There's one up here. Well, that's easy enough to use. So just keeping our bearings. We've done those two. Trying to do this one so it goes to that orbit. And this is done, but I can happily turn this face around to put a third piece there. Okay, so we'll undo that turn. And that one there. Okay, that's the third piece. This must be red white, which is over here this time. Okay, that's in orbit, so very simple, no setups required. Good. Now, what have I done there? Put it in the wrong thing. Okay, so let me undo that. There's the red white. It actually needs to go here, so I'm not sure why I thought it was in the orbit. Probably, I guess I was looking at that one there. So what I can do, just to make this as simple as possible, is just turn its position around so that its position is now in that correct orbit. And now it is fairly simple. Okay, so that's done. Undo that setup move. The next one is the remaining red, which is this red-green. Goes to there and then where? Over here. Well, that's kind of on the opposite side of the puzzle nearly. What I can do... nothing's super obvious here about this. So for now, I'm going to ignore that red one. And what was that? It was red-green. So I'm going to come over here and say this is grey-green. We'll see if we can get the grey-green in. Well, that is pretty close. So that is one of these where we can just turn it off. It's now here, and then we can turn its position around and put it back. Okay. This one is grey, whatever's remaining, grey-yellow. And how can we get it from up here? Going to there and going to there. Okay, that's not too bad. So what we can do, we want it going from here to here to here. So we'll turn it to that position and then turn it round on the square face like that. All done. We have to turn the square face back and then rotate that edge. Okay, this one white-yellow, and that might be the second to last one. So white-yellow is right here. Again, it's one of these that we can sort of move out into this one. Now that's done. I'd like to keep that done if I can. So all I need to really remember is to put something that's not done over here. So that's fine. Okay, that's been moved out. I can now turn the position and now put it back in. And moving the orange-red back in will ensure that that stays done. As you can see, that's gone in. Now let's see if we can just get this last one, this red-yellow. I mean, we absolutely can. It's just a matter of whether it's worth the effort and the pain at the moment. That's going to there, that's going to there. Oh, it's actually in orbit, is it? Oh no, that's yellow-red. Looking at the yellow-red, and we need red-yellow. Do we? we do not need red, yellow. That's not red, yellow. We need red, whatever it is, which happens to be red, green. There it is there. Okay. Into that position. This looks quite a bit easier. So I can turn the position onto this orbit. Yep, this is going to be fine. So I'll turn the position around to that orbit first. Now it's in the orbit of the red-green. I need a third piece, so I don't want to disturb that. So I'll just turn that one as well. Like so. Undo that setup and undo that setup. So that should be the whole lower half done. And again, these were the two here in that position that was swapped initially. So we're just now trying to keep going. And I might try and leave one of these. So we'll work our way around here. This is the blue yellow, which is there. It's got to go to here and to here. Where else? It's over to there. That's really not close at all. I can get the blue yellow close by just setting it up to there and happily turning like that. The question is there a third piece? Looks like that yellow green is the third piece. I'm going to assume that is okay to use. Okay, that's done. Now, some setups. Like that and like that. All right, good. This one, orange, yellow, which is over here. Now, again, the orbit is like this. So this just requires one turn. That blue-green, I think, is one of the ones that's not done. So I'm happy to use that. What's this one? Orange something, orange blue over here. Again, I can turn that around to that position if I've got another one to use, and I do. So let's firstly turn the orange blue around to there so that it is in the correct orbit. And then over here, I don't think I want to use that yellow green, do I? I can, because I don't think that is correct. So that's fine. So just that setup is all I need. Okay. All right, let's just take stock. I think that was our bottom face. So I've got these, in fact, that one, those two, and that one, and the two on the top. So we're getting quite close. So I might, you know what, I just think I'm going to keep working and do what I can do. So the yellow green is going to go to here, and I've got a spare one that can go to that position. Now, I will, if the yellow green is going there, this is the pink blue. And I'll say, does the pink blue belong over here somewhere? It belongs there. So I could try and get this around to here, or I could look at one of these two here, and say, these two don't belong here. Do they belong up in this position? And that's the blue-red. Looks like the blue-red is the go. So if I first set that blue-red up to there, in fact, let's just double check. And, no, I can't do that because I'm trying to place, yes, I can. I thought I was trying to place the pink blue, but I'm actually trying to place the yellow green. So it's totally fine. So that is going to land here. So I'd like the blue-red, which I really want to go over here, to come to this position first. So what I'm hoping is the yellow-green will place and that blue-red will place up here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. What do I need to undo? Those there. All right, let's take stock. We've got a couple here and a couple here. Now, let's see what's going on. The yellow-red belongs here, the yellow-white does belong down here. So that's one swap of kites. And then I've got the pink-blue with the pink-white. Those two need to swap. That's our second swap. So that's what's happened. It's fixed that single swap down to 2 swaps. We can now finish this with 3 cycles. So what's the thing that's most logical here? That and that are in the same orbit. So let us attempt to place this one, which is the pink-blue. So to do that, I'm going to move that square face so it can receive the pink-blue, and I'll use this piece. It's my third piece. All done. Put that back. That's completed. Now there will be 1, 2, 3 pieces left for the final 3 cycle. So the way to deal with this is just to look at the order of the pieces, and I know that the pink-white has to go to yellow-white. Just remember that, pink-white to yellow-white. So I'm firstly going to turn the yellow-white out to that position, and then this is my other piece, and so I'll turn that square face so it's in the same orbit. Pink-white to yellow-white, which means these are the 3. That's the order that I need to go. All done. All I need to do is remember my setups. That was the first and that was the second. And as you can see, that has absolutely solved that for the second time in this video. But that's what you do to deal with that swap of kites. And I hope that was helpful and explained why it happens, and also a bit of understanding of the reason for doing this last turn and then doing the resolve. As it is, that is Dayan Gem 10, and if you have watched all the way, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And to everyone, as always, thanks for watching.